Good morning. How you all doing today? You know what time it is? Story time. Get relaxed, get comfortable, get caffeinated. Here we go. Happy Tuesday. So today what we're talking about is misconceptions of masculinity. So I got referred to watch a documentary. This documentary is called The Masks of Masculinity. I have an issue simply with that title. Think about it. The Masks of Masculinity. I'll say this once. Get it through your heads. Your masculinity is not a mask. And if you think that is a mask that you got to put on in the morning, you are not doing it correctly. Masculinity is not a mask. It is internalized into your personality, into your character. It is something you are. It is not something you put on. Masculinity is not clothing. It's not a watch. It's not a mask that you have to put on. You don't put on your masculinity and then come home at the end of the day and then take it off and then sit on your couch and cry like a little child. If that's what you're doing, if that's how you think masculinity, then you're not doing masculinity correctly. And you've been influenced to think that that's what masculinity is, that it's a mask, it's fake, it's a facade. Then it's not genuine. It's not authentic. It's not who you are as a person. Because you haven't internalized it. Right here is a little description. House exposes the ultimate emptiness of the material mask. The man who chases wealth above all things, the cowering vulnerability that hides behind the joker and stoic masks of men who never show real emotion, and the destructiveness of the invisible and aggressive mask worn by men who take insane risks or can never back down from a fight. The cowering vulnerability that's behind the mask. If there is vulnerability behind the mask, then there's something internally that you have not corrected, that you have not worked on, and that's something that you got to dig deeper in. If your masculinity is a mask, if you feel like it is, you got to rethink how you're doing it. Because true masculinity shouldn't be an effort. It shouldn't be I got to get up in the morning and I got to put on this masculine act. It's not an act. It's who you are. Day in, day out. It shouldn't be an effort. It should be natural. And that's the issue I have with the title of that documentary. Telling young boys that their masculinity is a mask is harmful and is dangerous. Basically telling little boys that their personality, their natural tendencies, their natural proclivities are incorrect. That they're not really who they're showing you to be. At how young, aggressive, rambunctious boys behave with each other, how they play with each other, that's not the correct way to be as a boy. Deep down, you're a sad, vulnerable little child. Maybe. But drilling that into the heads of little boys at a young age is a recipe for disaster. And they grew up to be very dysfunctional, incompetent men because of that. because they've believed their entire life that their masculinity is a mask. It's not real. Their aggressiveness, their dominance, their assertiveness, traditional male qualities, it's not real. It's all fake. Basically putting down positive traditional male qualities. Are certain qualities destructive in men? Yes, but it all depends on the context and how you do it. I'll give you an example. Dominance. If you don't do dominance correctly, if you do it in a negative form, it becomes suppression. It becomes disrespectful. If you do dominance correctly and in a positive manner, what does it become? It becomes leadership. Positive trait of masculinity. And don't start telling me that leadership is just a mask of masculinity. Get out of here with that. Don't tell me that. What's aggressiveness? Done properly. Assertiveness. If you can channel your aggression effectively and properly in a healthy emotional fashion, it becomes assertiveness. Being able to set healthy boundaries. In a negative sense, aggression becomes what? Aggression becomes bullying. Yes, and that doesn't help everybody, but you can't discard masculine nature. You got to just teach your boys how to do it correctly, but not completely discarding it, because what does that tell you? Well, you're a boy, and well, you should be better. Your nature, your natural nature is incorrect. It's bad. You shouldn't be like that. You should be more caring, more compassionate, more vulnerable. And I'm going to get into vulnerability now. So boys and men are told to be a little more vulnerable, emote more, express your emotions. I'm going to tell you a little story of the correct way to be vulnerable. A couple years ago, my father was diagnosed with cancer. He was terminal. So we were going into it was the Christmas of 2017, our last Christmas together. I was told, you know what, he doesn't like Christmas gifts. Don't worry about it. That's not his thing. He's not the kind of guy that likes to accept gifts, so don't get him gifts. I ignored that. Knowing that it was his last Christmas, I got him a gift. Got him a hockey sweater, loved hockey, and I got him a letter. What I was going to write in that letter, that was a time for me to emote and get emotional. So I wrote it down. Spent an evening, wrote how I felt about him. Come Christmas Eve, I gave him that letter. One sentence into that letter, his voice started to shake, his eyes welled up, and tears started to flow. And the entire time that I knew him, he never ever once cried in front. I've never seen him cry or get emotional. He was always happy and in a good mood, welcoming, great conversationalist, never upset, never cried, nothing. The only time I saw him cry or be vulnerable, it was in a very happy, uplifting context. And it shook me to the core. Why? Because I felt like I was one of the very few people that was able to bring that vulnerability out of him. It added value. It made me feel special because that vulnerability was rare. It was a rare occasion to see that. So it made me feel special that I was one of the few that got that vulnerability out of him. You understand? When men are vulnerable in very rare occasions and in the right context, then it becomes valuable. When you're going to a parent's funeral and you shed a tear, yes, of course. No, I don't want to be a cold-hearted bastard. Of course, you're going to shed a tear. But it needs to be rare and in the right context, and use vulnerability correctly and in the right context. It's endearing. It's endearing to your family and to your friends. It's like, oh, I never knew he had that side of him. Oh, you're seeing a new side of him, and it's rare, it's interesting, it's, but if you're always emoting, if you're always being vulnerable, if you're always complaining about stuff, if you're coming home every single night complaining, it becomes your personality. It becomes, that vulnerability loses its value, and it's not appealing, it just gets annoying. In times like that, when a man is complaining and emoting all the time, then you'll hear stuff like, okay, come on, be a man, pick yourself up, get to work, let's go. When that emotion becomes a default setting, then it becomes a problem. You understand the difference? If you want more on vulnerability, go to the Rational Male, Rollo Tomasi's channel, and watch. It's a good 2-hour video on male vulnerability. He can go in much more depth, and it's a great listen. So if you want to go to his channel and watch that, it'll go in much more depth about vulnerability. Masculinity is a calming effect when it's internalized. When men feel social pressure to be, you got to be strong, you got to be stoic, you got to be assertive. When that nature is very flamboyant, and it's very out there, and it's very extravagant, and that aggressiveness is very in your face and kind of over the top, it doesn't become genuine, it doesn't look real. Then it looks like a mask. Then it looks like he's trying to put on a show. He's trying to prove something to himself that he is a mask. Trying to prove something to his peers that he can do it. True masculinity, when it's internalized, it's calming. You see a calming, stoic effect to it. Where you feel more, it's become a part of who you are, and it's calmed any kind of insecurity or anxiety you feel internally. It stops becoming a mask and it becomes who you are as a person. Look at it like this. I'm going to use a superhero reference to this. Last night, I was watching Iron Man. So Tony Stark builds a suit and becomes Iron Man. Is Tony Stark Iron Man, or is Iron Man Tony Stark? Both. When Tony Stark takes off his Iron Man suit, he doesn't stop being Iron Man. He's internalized who Iron Man is. He is Iron Man. Every day. All the time. That's his character. It's the same way how you see it in interviews all the time. Robert Downey Jr., they say he is Tony Stark. The difference between Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark, there's not a whole lot of difference. Like he's internalized Tony Stark because he is that character. He is that person. Their personality, the actor and the character are almost identical, almost the same person, because he's internalized who Tony Stark is. It's a character he plays in the movie, yes, but he is that character too, every day. He doesn't put on the Tony Stark mask. Doesn't put on the Iron Man mask. You have to internalize it. And like I said in the beginning, if you feel that it is a mask and deep down behind that mask is anxiety and insecurity and vulnerability, you need to work on that. We all have anxieties. We all have insecurities. You know, no man goes through life, perfectly calm, perfectly confident, perfectly masculine all the time. No, there's ups and downs all the time. But it all depends on how you deal with it, how you internalize it. That being vulnerable and having a lot of anxiety and having a lack of confidence, is it your personality? And that's what the title of this documentary, that's kind of what it's saying. It's not, masculinity is not who you really are. Who you really are is a scared, vulnerable, anxiety-ridden little child. Someone tells you that, you tell them to F off. And if that is actually how you're feeling, get to work and work on it. A great strategy to help you if you are feeling anxiety and you are feeling vulnerable and you want to feel more masculine, get into the gym, start working out. You will get an increase in testosterone. You will get an increase in endorphins, and keeping a regular gym schedule will make you feel masculine. If you want to start somewhere, get in the gym. That's a good place to start. I've said it many times in this video, and I'll say it one more time. Masculinity is not your mask. It needs to be internalized and be who you are. So get out there today and be that masculine man. Got it? Good. On that note, guys, thank you very much for watching. Have a great Tuesday. Smash the like button and subscribe, and I will see you all in another life. Enjoy your coffee. And get rid of that mask. And be who you're born to be. I'll see you soon.